Hello, I'm Annalouise, and today I'm going to be talking about pain or aliveness. If you're watching this, maybe pain is on your mind or you've been experiencing pain, and I'm curious, what is your relationship to the pain that you might be experiencing now or you have been experiencing in your life? Yeah, what do you notice when we touch into that? It may be physical pain, maybe emotional pain, maybe something that's more acute, or it might be something that's been going on for many, many years. Yeah, what are the words that come to mind when you bring that into awareness? Or it may be that you have a friend who's in great pain or mild pain, and you're listening to this partly to help them. Being human means experiencing pain, and that could be on all these levels. It could be physical, it could be emotional, and when we feel pain, I think often the natural response is to contract, to almost not want to feel the pain, and to almost shy away from life. We may get ill and we might sort of go inside and shy away from life a bit. And sometimes when we're ill or when we're in pain, deep, deep rest is exactly what's called for. And in that deep rest, I think there's a relaxation in the body. Our mind maybe checks out and it just allows the body to do what it needs to do. When we experience pain and we consciously sort of try and avoid it, or we try in some way remove ourselves from it, my sense in a way is that we're creating a pattern around that pain that sustains it. Because we're not giving full permission for it, and we're actually creating, potentially, for instance, if it's a physical pain and we're contracting around it, that contraction is then not allowing the energy to freely move through. Say if it was in my arm, freely move through my arm, and if you imagine the circulation isn't then free to move, all these things which potentially could help the recovery of my arm, I'm sort of putting a contraction in place to stop those. And over a few weeks, contractions in the body can become so habitual that we don't even recognise them in ourselves. We don't realise we're contracted. And I think this is part of the reason we see many people who are older and they're walking around with reduced capacity for different planes of movement and perhaps less freedom of movement. It's not necessarily the case that those planes of movement aren't still available for them, but their bodies and their nervous system have learnt that there's been this contraction, and just to hold it in place. I've been quite exposed to the work of somatics, which looks at very slowly passing through movements in order to help our nervous system release some of these long-term patterns. So if you have got long-term patterns of contraction and stiffness, it might be worth looking up somatic practices. Yeah, certainly they've been very important in my life. But actually that's not really why I'm here to talk today. I'm here to talk to the possibility of opening to a different relationship with our pain, to open to feeling pain, wherever it may be, as aliveness. So let's imagine for a minute that you have a pain somewhere. If you have a pain right now, you can do that, and you can imagine what your usual tendency would be around that pain. So if it was in the arm, maybe contraction, protection. Yeah, just notice what your usual pattern would be. And now we're going to drop into really feeling from the inside our bodies, feeling, and it can be emotional as well, where we're feeling that in our body. and allow ourselves to really feel the aliveness in those sensations. Wow, so much, there's so much here. There's so much here. And rather than sort of contracting our awareness, allowing our awareness to be really, really spacious. Again, what I notice in my experience is that it can be so easy when something's hurting my body to sort of put all my attention onto that. And then in so doing, it feels like I'm creating this pattern, reoccurring pattern. Whereas if I can open my awareness and have a much bigger space, then I think that can be more helpful. So what are you noticing now as we allow the change in the chip from feeling it as pain to feeling it as aliveness? It's possible when we do this, it can feel too much because we're not used to feeling in this way, maybe. And when we're not used to feeling this level of intensity in our bodies, it can feel perhaps uncomfortable, unfamiliar, like there's something wrong. And I invite us just now just to be with those feelings. And if there's overwhelm, there's intensity, in the same way that we allowed our sense to be aliveness with pain, see that overwhelm as aliveness too. The intensity as aliveness. We are such a dynamic system, and we're so used to making our aliveness smaller. We've become habitualized in reducing our aliveness. But for this moment with me, while I'm here, we can just go, woof. Can I just touch into feeling some of this? And if it feels too much, you can always imagine you just reduce it down to a place which feels okay for you. So say if it's feeling like a 10, like, wow, this is a lot to feel, we can invite our bodies just to go, well, what would be comfortable? What number would be comfortable for you to feel right now? Whatever the number is. 3 just came up for me. So I'm just to say, right, I'm just going to feel a 3 of this, feeling it as my aliveness. Oh yeah, that's okay. I notice it's like it can be here, and yeah, sort of interesting. What are you noticing? I notice some deep breaths. Yeah, what else are you noticing? There's so much, right? There's so much here in our bodies. And when we're little, we're so used to feeling, and we're so used to expressing. We might get hurt, we might scream, we might run in the playground and we fall over and we cry, and we are feeling all over our aliveness. And little by little, we get used to not feeling our aliveness. And maybe ending up with more long-term pain in places. I'm not saying this is the only reason, that's just an invitation. This is an invitation to explore and be curious and to see what is here. Yeah, let's see, on that note, let's see what is here. Is there anything that your aliveness is wanting to say to you? Allow anything to pass through. Is there anything that you want to say to your aliveness? And see how the aliveness responds. What do you notice in whatever came to you in that question? Anything that's surprising or inspiring, or possibly sad, or welcome. All of our aliveness is welcome, however we're experiencing it. Yeah. Just tuning in. Let's just feel from the beginning of this talk to now, how might we want to experiment in our awareness with pain sensations differently over the next week or two? What feels like it's invited for you? And again, all is welcome. It may be that some despair comes in, and it might be, this doesn't feel like something I can do, or it feels it's not going to help me, and that's all true too, right? That's all part of our aliveness as well. When I say true, I don't mean like true, but I mean it's all here to be open to. So whatever response comes, it's our aliveness, and we can open to it. And how would it be if over the next few weeks, when you noticed pain and perhaps a usual response to pain, whether you might feel like experimenting with curiosity and feeling and openness, and wow, let's feel how alive I feel in all of this, and what level feels safe and comfortable for me to open to. No need to push ourselves into something that feels too overwhelming or uncomfortable or unsafe, or that might trigger something. Just being with what feels like it's new, and it's a feeling we can go, wow, yeah, there's some intensity there, but it's okay. Yeah. What do you reckon? How would you be playing with this over the next week or two? Yeah. And let me know how you get along, what your experience is. I'm totally curious, as always. As usual, I'm only offering perspectives and curiosity into your own life experience, so we can all discover and learn together. And on that note, I'd love you to comment below with any of your experience, and do share this with anyone that you think or feel maybe it might touch in some way. And if you want to know more about me, you can go to www.resonating.love, and you can sign up to my newsletter. Giving ourselves permission to feel, to open, to hold big spaciousness for ourselves, to be curious, and to be happy. Yay to that. Yay to happiness. I just allow the words to flow out of here. Wishing you much happiness.